Hello, everyone. We are super excited to be again with you because we want to share a new feature we have for all the companies that we work remotely. And we have today our product manager, Justine Shu, who will talk about this new feature.
Yay! Hey, everyone. So today we're excited to share that we've given company profiles on We Work Remotely a bit of an uplift. The reason why we got to this is may seem like such a small feature, but really I think the meaning of it is quite large. We noticed that from talking to some of our favorite customers from We Work Remotely that some of the largest challenges in last year around hiring remote has been about standing out as a remote company, because so many companies are hiring remote now, as you know. Even from We Work Remotely, we saw just over 3,000 new companies post jobs on We Work Remotely in the last year, which is up 75% from 2020. Quite significant. So
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Great news for us and great news for candidates, of course, but for companies, especially some of our long-term customers, how do you stand out? There's different ways to look into your employer branding, of course, but, looking at We Work Remotely specifically, what are these steps that we can do to help keep candidates engaged with remote companies?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel before many companies had already this benefit of offering remote work, and that was like the main perk they were offering. And now there are so many companies out there that have that. And so yeah, this is like a great feature for all companies to really stand out.
Totally. And through talking with candidates as well, we learned how, when they're searching for jobs now, that finding that value alignment is just that much higher on their prioritization list. So that's something we kept in mind as well.
What new information can companies add to their profiles now?
So this is kind of the view of the new uplift. There's a new sidebar on the left, which kind of gives you a quick snapshot of a company. So here you can select the size of your company. Candidates have specific desires, like I want to work for a large company, I want to work for a startup or a medium. So, showing the size of the company, what industry the company is in, when the company had been established, as well as how long the company has been remote for, which I'm personally excited by.
Yes.
Not that I'm job hunting right now, but if I were to down the future, these are things that I would look for too. Candidates want to know how long companies have been operating as remote, because that tells them how almost like serious you are about remote as a company and intentional you are about your remote culture.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel this is like a super important feature, like this part of the remote years, also because for some companies that are newly remote, we also give them the option to show off a bit of the remote culture and how committed they are to this culture. Because maybe they've been remote for 2 years, but they already have a lot of processes in place. They already have the tools. They're already like super committed to working remotely. So in another section, which is the culture one, we also give them the chance to show everyone how they are working and how remote friendly they are, or if they are remote first, or whatever that situation might be.
Exactly. And through talking to a lot of candidates in our community, they're constantly telling us, we love coming to work remotely because you only show remote jobs.
Yes.
So there was this point, I think, when we were like, do we include jobs, like as remote work is changing, do we include hybrid opportunities? Do we include kind of widening out the remoteness? But through talking to our community, like we want to just actually deepen into remote work. And here in the culture section, you can really highlight what is your intentional remote culture? How do you stand out as a remote company? So these links here, the reason why we've chosen these specific links is from talking and observing different companies out there. These are the things, remote work is like a culture of documentation. So having these documents or policies around, this is our remote work culture, this is our D&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, and here is our communication policy. So
and also I feel many companies might think like, but I don't have these, or I don't know. And this is also a great opportunity for a lot of companies to think about these things and to really document how they work and their processes and how they approach diversity, for example, how they approach the remoteness or anything.
And from your side, like, have you noticed which kind of job descriptions stand out just in the way the companies talk about themselves? And, we can use that example of maybe a smaller company that doesn't offer benefits the way like a larger company could. How can they really stand out in their profile to showcase why they're awesome?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of interesting companies. One company that comes to my mind right now is DraftDev. They, for example, have like a very async first approach to their communication. They have built a company of, I think they have more than 50 people now, and they don't use Slack, for example, which is one of the most popular tools remote teams use. And they are very intentional in how they communicate, in what they do, in everything. And by them sharing that they are so intentional and this is how we work and we don't use Slack, we're, if you want a company where you can chat all day with your coworkers, we are not that company. And that's really attractive for job seekers. And more than that, it attracts the right people, because that's also another thing, right? You want to not attract just anyone. You want to attract people that will be a great fit to your team.
It's, as you were mentioning DraftDev, it makes me think of Doist, who talks so much about async only. That's obviously their intentional remote culture. Shogun, very strong focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in their hiring and in their culture. So finding those like key messages in your employer branding, but also what you want to talk about and share and promote. And just keep drilling that in.
Yes, for example, now that you mentioned that, Thinkific, they, for example, have a budget to meet their teams. But for example, if the marketing team wants to meet twice a year, they have a budget for that. So that also talks a bit about how the culture works and if they value, this in-person from time to time meeting or not.
Thought of one more example with Toggle. I think even just thinking about what are the main topics of conversation around remote work right now. So where people are finding as kind of 9-to-5 office cultures have to go remote, like so many other companies. Certain companies are incorporating surveillance, or you have to turn your camera on all the time. So a company like Toggle, who's been remote for a long time, and it kind of aligns with their software, takes a very strong stance. Like, we do not believe in incorporating surveillance in our environment. So something like that, I think, could really catch a candidate's eye and be like, yeah, I don't believe in that either, and I want to work for a company that doesn't believe in that and takes a strong stance on that.
And I feel it also talks about your values as a company, about like what do you believe in.
So with the culture section, it's a great space to kind of share that. And I'd recommend to actually we talked about a lot of possibilities and kind of, you might be tempted to kind of jam it with so much information, but I'd recommend it to keep it pretty succinct and really just highlight those key points so candidates aren't like drowning in information. And
also that's the reason the links are there, right? So if people want to know more about their company and you have already policies set in place, you can share the links and people can go, like as deep as they want with the information.
Another section I'm excited that we have now is benefits. Right now, it's a list of keywords, preset keywords that we noticed were common and included in job postings on We Work Remotely. So things that are slightly remote oriented, like flexible work schedule, home office budget, team retreats, along with the more common ones such as healthcare coverage, health and wellness, things that really support the candidate or team member. Have you noticed whether more and more companies are including benefits in their job descriptions and kind of the impact of that?
Yes, definitely. And I keep track of the job listings that are like popular at We Work Remotely, and always the job descriptions that can tell you like the benefits you will get, like what's in it for you as an employee. Those are the ones that are always popular, and they have more applicants also.
Yeah, it's also interesting through talking to some of the candidates in our community. They explained their job hunting process. And what's common is, and this isn't like revolutionary or anything, but it's just, I think it's an interesting thing to note that, job hunters, they're browsing, they see the keywords or job titles that associate with them. They kind of bookmark those links. And then they go through that kind of list and basically create a short list of, does this company and job description align with what I'm looking for? Again, value based. Does it offer a healthcare coverage, like parental leave for my family, or I'm about to have a baby? I need to have a flexible work schedule. I can't, it's just the way I like to work. So do they have those things? And if they don't, I'm not even going to bother looking further into the company and applying. So seeing that information right away will just help candidates make their decisions that much quicker. And then on the
Yes.
company side, they're attracting candidates, again, that align with who they're looking for. Like in job descriptions, I think even if they did include benefits, it was oftentimes buried.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's a bit more organized and easier to highlight and like you're saying, stand out as a company. And by having these kind of items on your profile. I think another thing that adds to the transparency of a company is just sharing your hiring process. What do you think about that?
I love that it's a thing now that we have included it, because it's so unclear sometimes for many job seekers how long it will take. I know, for example, we've asked our community, hey, like, what's the most difficult thing about getting a remote job? And a lot of people always say, I don't know how long it will take. Or even, of course, it can take time, but even from the moment you get like a reply from a company to the moment you are hired, it's very uncertain. You don't know. Like, you don't know if it will take 1 week or 2 weeks, or maybe, for example, you are applying to several companies and you're like in the process with two companies, let's say. And if you don't know how that process works, if you as a company are not being transparent enough about that, you might lose a good candidate just because of timing issues, right? Maybe another company is faster.
And again, I've seen companies list out the process and detailed information, which I think is awesome. That's great. The more information you can provide, the better. For the purposes of this profile, it might be in best practice just to kind of, again, highlight the steps. You can also include a link right in the section, kind of saying like, learn more and see the specifics of our hiring process as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially I know, and I've talked with some hiring managers, and I always ask this question, like, what does the hiring process look like? And they're always like, well, it depends on the position. But in
Mm-hmm.
general, it is, you get this, you go to stage blah, and you do this and this and this. So at least they know, like, yeah, it's like a 6-step process that lasts for 1 month or 3 weeks or whatever that timeline might be. And it's great also for people to know what they're getting into, because sometimes even that process of getting hired is so time consuming.
Agreed. And then on the company side, like obviously hiring is difficult and time consuming and can be super exhausting as well. If you're a company that hasn't had that process laid out, I think that would be a great way to start, to just have that kind of roadmap ahead. So you
Mm-hmm.
can, even if it's not perfect, it's something that you're constantly improving, and having those steps laid out probably would make that process a bit
Yeah,
easier.
yeah, and also I think it depends on the company, it depends on the role, but some applications really require commitment from the job seekers. Some applications, for example, include like a test thing, or you have to write this, you have to do this code challenge, or you have like whatever that may be, and so yeah, this also helps people to know what kind of commitment they will have to put in the application, and if it's worth it for them in the end. So now that we've gone through all the new features that all companies will have remotely, if a company wants to update their profile, what are the steps to do that?
It's a great question. So, in order to update your profile, you do need to have an account on We Work Remotely. So, to create an account, you can just go into the Employers tab and create one. I'm sure many of you listening here already has an account. So, what you would do is just log in and head to the company profile tab. And all of the fields are kind of there. So yeah, drop down menus for company size, industry as well. And then you can fill out the fields for when the company was established, as well as a drop down kind of for a range for years remote as well. Then it's pretty kind of straightforward, but 10 text editors for the culture description, and then selection, a drop down selection for benefits. So you can just kind of select the ones that kind of make sense. And links for the policies, another text editor for your hiring process, and then you just click change, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's live.
So yeah, very excited about this feature release, and this is just the beginning. We'll be probably adding more sections, looking into adding a video tab. Eventually, hopefully soon, job seekers will also be able to search by these criteria, being able to search by the benefits, by the size of the company, how long the company has been remote for, that kind of thing. And we'll just kind of keep going from there.
Yes. Yeah, this is so exciting. And I think it will really help companies to stand out.
Yeah, and with all of the traffic that We Work Remotely gets, this is the perfect opportunity to really showcase who you are as a remote company and keep standing out.